Tando.
Tando. 8.
Siba.
Siba. And then we go to this row now. Thank you for saving this row. You are 9. Name?
Kellen.
Eh?
Kellen.
Helen.
Kellen, yes.
Oh, Kellen. Kellen. And then 10. Number 10. Okay, on that row.
Lungelo.
11.
Hello.
Pelo.
Yes.
Okay. I think we're done with this side. This side, any stakeholders? Not. And then which one?
Yes, this one.
One, which one? The name?
Daftamnes.
Manaisa.
Yes,
Or-
Daftamnes, yes.
Yes. Okay, so we're going to start, if possible, very short, straight to the point so that everyone gets the answers that they deserve. Because we don't want anyone to leave here with unanswered questions. The chairpersons are here. They are going to make a great effort in answering each and every question. There's about 12 of them, 11 here, and then 1 virtual. So before you ask a question, just say your name again and the institution where you come from. And then, just try to speak close to the mic, but not too close, so that it doesn't cause distortions. But if we can do question in 2 minutes each, I'll really appreciate. Not more than 2 minutes. If you can take 1 minute also, it's fine. You don't have to exhaust the whole 2 minutes.
Okay, I'm Mahandana. My question is directed to the Honorable Mr. Letsie. I would like to know that what oversight mechanism is the committee implementing to hold NSFAS accountable for timely payments? And then are there any plans to make sure that to penalize NSFAS or to reform them from repeated delays? And then maybe lastly, I would just like to know that to the affected accommodation providers, currently, are there any solutions to temporal solutions to mitigate on the loss that they have? For example, like a bridging loan or any emergency fundings. Thank you.
Zimasa, 2.
To Honorable Fanny, what measures are in place to...
Which institution do you come from?
I'm from Unity Bridge, an organization. Mr. Tebogo, what measures are in place to ensure setup boards are inclusive and responsive to youth from underserved communities like Crossroad and Philippi? And then for Mr. Tebogo, then for you, Mr. Penny.
The first one is what efforts are being taken to ensure?
What measures,
measures
in place to ensure setup boards are inclusive and responsive to youth from underserved communities
setup boards,
and Philippines. Okay, and then for you, Mr. Fanny, how will chapters 5 and 6 of the Children's Amendment Bill enhance protection mechanism for vulnerable children? And the last question is, are there any plans to better integrate ECD programs with community organizations for smoother early transitions? Thank you.
Thank you. 3. Mrs. Mwanda.
I come from an organization called Basadi Women Empowerment. I'm based in Kailicha. I would like to ask for Mr. Feni, Honorable Feni, just two questions. You said in the Bella Bill, there's a law that tells us about compulsory grade R. Has there been a recognition of the cost that comes with grade R? Because currently the money that gets paid to schools for grade R is is so enormous as compared to money that gets to be paid for school fees for grade 1. So those comparisons and the cost, knowing that most of some of the kids, most majority of kids come from vulnerable communities that depends on SASSA for them to survive. The second one, I like how higher education addressed this one, which I think DPE needs to also address the shortages of schools. It was said when I attended a dialogue in Enkanini Kaelicha, where we saw a number of young people who are supposed to be in high school, which are out of schools because there's shortage of schools and a high volume of foreign nationals that are occupying space in our high schools, whilst our own as South Africans are sitting without spaces in school, which leverage on the issue of rising crimes and so forth. So those such questions that I wanted to ask. Thank you.
Thank you. 4.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Liema Jacobs. I'm the SRC chairperson, Tygerberg SRC chairperson at Stellenbosch University. My question is directed at Mr. Letsie. In Stellenbosch, earlier this year, we had to strike at the start of the year due to registration blocks based on historical debt of that cohort on NSFAS students who are incurring historical debt at Stellenbosch University due to the accommodation cap NSFAS introduced in 2023. There is ranges from 50K to about 75,000, meaning NSFAS students are accumulating up to 25K of debt every year. That over 4 years is about 100K. For medicine, it's even more. Keeping that in mind, and also the news report that News 24 brought up to light on the ENCA Africa legal opinion on the 4 middleman companies that you highlighted earlier, and the maladministration with regards to the optimal performance of these companies and the, I want to say, big tender amounts, or basically the maladministration of those huge amounts. It's very disheartening to see because that amount, Chairperson, can be used, towards addressing the state issue, could have been used towards funding deregistered students who don't have an opportunity to appeal these things due to administrative issues with the whole application process. So, Chairperson, my question to you is and you also highlighted this earlier when you said that you're not happy with the pace at which NSFAS is resolving some of the issues that were raised on the 7th of May. If you and the board, not the board, the PC of the opinion that NSFAS is dragging their feet and is not doing enough, what more can you do besides bringing them here and having them account to their lack of actions? What more decisive accountability measures can you put in place to protect the student? Because the longer they drag their feet, the more students actually hurt on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson Jacobs. 6.
Thank you so
or
much.
5, sorry.
Thank you so much. My name is Ndodan Hadebe, the current national chairperson of Civil Society Unmuted. But my question is based on the report because I represent the city of Cape Town on the National Homeless Network, consisting of about 9 cities. My burning question is actually to Honorable Bridget Masau. Can you provide an update on the status of the housing payments of non-profit organizations? What specific interventions as the committee have you implemented to support those organizations? We've seen in the couple of years that they're actually struggling. First, it was the delays on the payments. Now, then is the budget cuts. Then thirdly, now is the compliance issues. Are they trying not to fund those NPOs, or is there any issue? I can give you an example. They've spent 1.3 billion on irregular expenditure as a social department. And then they send money back, about 140 million sending back to Treasury because they could not use it. So is there a way, or is there something which as a committee are interfering in that? Because that's a pending issue for many years. Or have you not get any complaints in regards to that? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Hadebe. 6.
Thank you. I am Alia Chipter from the Alternative Information and Development Center, and I'm also from part of the Universal Basic Income Coalition. The question I have is for Honorable Bridget Masango. So what efforts are being undertaken to address erroneous exclusions and payment failures with the SRD grant?
Try to
Sorry.
talk into the mic.
Sorry,
Yeah.
is this better?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so there are 18 million people who live in poverty and should qualify for the SRD grant, but Treasury has only budgeted to cover 8.7 million of these people. At every stage of the process, from application to approval and payment, there are significant barriers. Research has shown that 90% of rejections are erroneous. Grant beneficiaries have themselves noted that issues with the biometric verification process, with the system often not working as you have stated. Even when people are able to unblock the verification process prior to the payment date, people still end up not being paid. The issue with mobile offices is that the SRD grant is not permanent. So even if there is an in-person and accessible assistance, there is still the need for continued online verification. For example, if someone changes their contact details, meaning that exclusion is built in by design. So are these measures sufficient to address the array of erroneous exclusions? And what can be done to ensure that these issues with the SRD grant are addressed and not extended to other grants in light of Treasury's conditionalities? Thank you.
Thank you, Anya. Tando?
Thank you, Chairperson. I'd like to greet all the honorable members in the room and anyone else who's also honorable. My name is Tando Lukele. I am the SRC president of the University of Cape Town. Just out of curiosity, with the NSFAS coverage, you cover from households that earn from 0 to 350,000, understanding that universities increase prices annually, understanding that obviously there's an increase in VAT, there's an increase in inflation. Are you considering calling the NSFAS board to increase the threshold to cover the missing middle? There's obviously concerns around the missing middle. We have about 5,000 students in UCT who are academically, or rather financially excluded last year, solely on the context that they can't afford the fees or the tuition of University of Cape Town. UCT round about 200,000. If my mom earns 400K, they pay bonds, they pay for their cars. There's absolutely no way they would afford fees. So my first question is there a conversation around increasing the threshold? Second question is, have you called NSFAS to account on them introducing the missing middle loan last year, but there were no payments around it? How many payments were made? Is there follow-ups on that? Follow-up question, just to piggyback on the issue of accommodation caps as well. Are you going to be engaging with the city of Cape Town? I mean, the cheapest residence here in Cape Town is around about 70,000, meaning a NSFAS funded student will own about a minimum of 25,000 annually. So are you considering engaging with the city on that? And follow up after that, understanding institutional autonomy. I'm sorry, Mr. Letsie. Understanding institutional autonomy is the way in which the department and the institutions can liaise to decrease the fees or the costs of accommodations around the spaces as well. Is the conversations on that as well, including the fact that you had raised an issue on the now I'm doing the thing you were doing as well. Internationalization as well, and the fact that there's no way in which the department can hold these institutions into account. So it's the way in which we can implement something where we maintain institutional autonomy, but we can hold our public institutions to account as well. So those are just my questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Number 8, Siba.
Thank you very much, Program Director. So my name is Siba Mdingi. I'm the current postgraduate academic sub-council secretary at the University of Cape Town. So my questions are directed to all three members. So I'll start with Mr. Letsie. So Mr. Letsie, we have what we call SAUS in the university spaces, and SAUS has been inactive for the past 3 to 4 years. So, but they still want privileges at DHAT. So what is the committee doing to call SAUS to come and account, to not just enjoy the privileges of DHET, but also be active in that space? Because we've not seen what they are doing, but they are now saying that they want NSFAS board appointments, they want A, B, and C, D, and F, yet they are not active in spaces where students are concerned. And then bulk of my questions will be going to Honorable Bridget Masongo. So are there any steps that have been taken to actually appoint the GBV and femicide or the GBV and femicide council that the president has announced? It has not been appointed till now, and GBV is a sketch that happens each and every year. We are taking to the streets, but the council is not appointed. The second there is that we appreciate the arrest of the people that were using SASSA to pay cost accounts, but has the committee established proper mitigation strategies there to say that there are ghost people receiving SASSA bursary? SASSA grants? What are we doing to ensure that we mitigate this and actually ensure that they stop? Because what happens is that you are removing the few culprits, but the root cause is still there. The third question is that, are there any plans to subsidize transport for elders who actually have to commute to these places to access their SASSA grants or have queries when it comes to SASSA grants? Because noting that they pay 150, but not actually working towards subsidizing their transport does not assist. The third one is that can there be a direct strategy or a actual, like, what you call is collaboration between the Department of Higher Education and yourselves, in that we don't have to always prove that we are poor, that I am now using a SASSA grant, from there I have to apply for NSFAS, from there I have to do this, but there collaboration between these departments in saying that once I use SASSA, it is knowledge that I will not afford university. So NSFAS must then also say that by that time, it is moving on a much more seamless basis. And then you spoke a lot about the CDA. The CDA has opened a roll call for applications at the moment, but they have not attached an application form. When you apply for the CDA to nominate anyone, the application form is not there. But the CDA is going to close, and then what's going to happen? We are going to have the issue of the CETA boards where people are appointed in bedrooms or in lingo. So we want to understand what's going on there. Why is the CDA not attached the application form so that people can actually nominate credible or people that are known that work in the spaces of these things? And then my last question is to Honorable Feni. Honorable Feni, is the department going to do anything about these principals that are appointed in certain schools, especially in the Eastern Cape where we come from, that populate and overcrowd us in classrooms? They would sit in a 60-seater classroom as 150 students so that they can just earn a higher salary from the department. Is there any steps that are being taken there to ensure that we get quality education in these institutions that we study for so that we can qualify for varsities at a later stage? Thank you.
Thank you, Council Secretary 9.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kellen Ontong from UWC. I'm representing the South African BRICS Youth Association, and my question is for Mr. Feni. You mentioned that South Africa is currently experiencing a backlog of skills, and I'd like to ask you if there are any steps or plans, perhaps strategies being talked about or put in place to address this backlog. Coming as a master's candidate, this is a very concerning thing to hear, and I'd just like to know if there's anything that is being done about this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. 10.
Thank you very much, facilitator. My name is Lungelo Mnguni, SRC Acting Secretary General from CPUT. I would like to concur with the later speakers, Comrade Tando from UCT, and also Comrade Siba from CPUT, on the issue of, firstly, the NSFAS cap. I think it's very important for you, Chairperson. You'll be fine with me because all my questions are coming to you. So on the issue of the NSFAS cap, I think it's no longer serving a purpose now with NSFAS. I'm myself a graduate of NSFAS Pasari, and I got my qualification through that particular Pasari, my first qualification. But with now students that we are having, all of them that are enrolling in these universities, they will come out at the end of their term of qualification without having to get that particular qualification certificate, on the basis that they will be having that debt that is caused by the accommodation cap at current moment. Then now to come on the issue, because the facilitator said that this is not just a Q&A session, but it's also engagement. So we have to put some submissions to you, Chairperson, on the issue of SETAs now. With SETAs, we want to complement the intervention that you did through your portfolio committee. But we also want to stress and put emphasis on the issue that we want SETAs, they must be paying our universities within 30 days, because what they are doing is against the PFMA to pay the entities with after getting invoices after 30 days. That's the current thing that is happening with our universities. These SETAs, they get to pay our universities after 2 years, after 1 year, which is now linking to these students having the student debt if they're not registered in the following academic year. Then also my suggestion is that the result, this thing of them not paying on time, result in these students being handed over to the debt collectors, of which is becoming more issue with the student debt that all the universities are handling. Then lastly, on the issue of suggestion, I would want you to also put more on the new setup board to say they must emphasize on the issue of the induction of these students on a yearly basis, not just to come once in a while to come and induct our students before granting them these particular bursaries. And I hear that they are building the youth centers across the country. I will want to also put it to you that they must emphasize the building of entrepreneurial centers for youth and students across this particular country of ours. Lastly, just to correct you, because you wanted to know what was the other way of advanced diploma. It was used to be called BTech, that's NQF level 7 that you were dealing with the issue of UL. With our issue at CPUT, because there was a question on UL, I was being touched as a student of CPUT. We, as SRC, we received an email from an unknown whistleblower, copied all portfolio committee of higher education, including yourself. I just confirmed myself here. Then all of us as SRC were copied, members of parliament, president of political parties, ministers, council members of the university. Allegations against corruption, fraud, and money embezzlement that was taking place in the university. None of the public representative did respond to that particular email, except for student structures that are representing students in these particular campuses together with the SRC. That was the only responses that we saw on that particular email, and only the registrar's response, which says that this particular matter is under investigation whatsoever. But because you were speaking of law firm companies, I want you to zoom in and also tell us if ever, are you entertaining that particular case that is taking place at CPUT? Because we're running away from these law firms that are coming to our universities with a track record of always trying to hide whatever that is being exposed by whoever who has got to showcase by being through a whistleblower. Then we have to protect those particular people because they come up with evidence to prove the effect that they're putting out there. Lastly, will be to say, as you are speaking, you also spoke yourself about these service providers with the issue of NSFAS. As you are here now as the SRC, we are having students right now who are being chased out by these particular private landlords whom are not getting paid by NSFAS as of yet. So our own students are being chased out of accommodation. They are told to go back home. Come second semester, they won't be having any place to stay on the basis of this issue of late payments from NSFAS because of these two channels. One is the channel of NSFAS portal, which my own university is not part of, but we are having students who are residing over this accommodation that they are claiming to be accredited with NSFAS, of which we are also questioning how were they allowed to be accredited with NSFAS, judging on the services that they are providing with to our students. It's only a bed and a chair, then they are charged 52,000. So we want you to also zoom into that particular space. As you said, that the NSFAS CEO, the current acting NSFAS CEO, is having a huge task at hand to deal with this particular matter. But also you as the chairperson of higher committee, I think you must zoom into that particular space of accreditation and check if is there something that you can do to make sure that those landlords who are accredited by NSFAS or claiming to be accredited by NSFAS did follow a proper process of their building being scrutinized before getting the accreditation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nobala. When you keep on saying the last one several times, you are giving us a false hope that you are about to finish, but not finish. 6 times. Thank you, Nobala. Pello.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Pello, and I'm the president of CPUT with my colleagues here. Also, my questions straight to Letsie. the chairperson of higher education. The last speaker have captured me on some of the questions, but I have to ask because I have some. So I would like to ask that, are there any solutions for the affected private accommodation due to the decline of NSFAS appeals after the delays in response? 2, what is the role of higher education in NSFAS accreditation in private accommodation?
Sorry, President, can you just repeat the first one?
The first one.
Yeah.
Are there any solutions for the affected private accommodation due to the decline of NSFAS appeals after the delays in responses? 2, what is the role of higher education in NSFAS accreditation of private accommodation? And the last one, what is the take of higher education on the resident cap here in Western Cape in making sure that the cap does not affect the low class, making sure of their safety and in making sure that they won't be evicted by these private landlords should be there delays in NSFAS payment? Because as we speak, Chairperson, the last speaker just said now, these students are being evicted because of this delay. NSFAS doesn't pay. I don't know what's happening. And, you know, I'm confused. West and West on the side of appeals because our students get affected, very, very affected by those appeals. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think that concludes all the questions for the virtual, for the physical. We've got one more virtual. Mr. Munaisa on virtual platform.
I'm sorry, Slalo. Are you still going to give us another round of questions?
This will be the last round. Do you want to ask another question? Or do you want to?
Yes, I was giving, there were many hands, so I was assuming we'll have another opportunity.
Yeah, let's give you that opportunity now.
Okay.
So that when the chairpersons respond, we know that they deal with everything and we are done, yeah.
Okay.
Because we don't want to detain you more than we should.
Definitely, I'll keep it brief. Mr. Letsie, so last year there were around about 350 something learners who are coming out of matric with bachelor passes. In context, understanding that there's those students, those who took gap years, there's those who want now who upgraded their marks, who want to go into university. And there's space for 200,000 first years. So how do we bridge that gap? Because there's obviously a gap between the people who qualify for university and the people who get accepted. So are we planning on building more spaces of higher learning? How are we what's our plan with bridging that gap? Then my last question, Mr. Mfeni, with regards to high scholars, what is our plan with equipping them for universities as well? I think there's a clear gap between the Department of Higher Education and the Department of Basic Education, but there's a need for first years, second years, and third years to be able to utilize university resources, to access devices, to know how to use a computer. So what is our plan with preparing our students or our learners for being students in the future? What is our plan with that? And Mayor Bridget, Honorable Bridget, just one Yana question. With regards to rural areas, there's obviously a lack of basic access to one, getting a basic ID if before we even go into conversations of SASA, because the nearest SASA is two hours away. So are we planning on what is our plan with that? Are we planning on using mobile cars, mobile devices to go access the people who actually need these social services? So like my basic question is, how do we open access to spaces that have an open issue with the digital divide? One, they can't access these services online. They can't access these services anywhere else. They have to travel 2-3 hours to get access to these places. What is our plan with that? And how are we planning on ensuring that we get an accurate count of everyone who needs these SASA grants, who are able to be getting the SASA grants? And obviously after that, there must be a plan on where they're going to withdraw the money, because the nearest ATM, if it's 2 hours away, it still doesn't solve the problem if they have a card, but the nearest ATM is very far. So what is the plan with that as well? Probably transportation of groceries, collecting people, as Siba said. What is our plan with being able to have open access to these social services, that to the people that actually need these social services? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. Can we then go to virtual? Huh? Oh, okay. I apologize, sir. I see that you are we'll give you 13.
No, thank you very much, Chair. I think I was rising on a point of privilege because I was outside when you're noting hands.
As long as it's not the order, a point of order.
Thank you so much.
I'm hardly out of order.
No, greetings. My name is Luvuyo Ngwenya. I am the Central SRC of the Cape Peninsula University of Technology under the portfolio Education and Transformation Officer. I think the latter speakers, I'm in agreement of what they are raising. Firstly, the cost of living in Cape Town, number one, that is very expensive, but you find students being indebted to pay residences close to 70,000. And you find that those students are actually NSFAS beneficiaries. And when they graduate, they do not get their qualifications, but that paper of completion that they've completed. But now, how are they going to even get funding to pay back the universities their money, while in fact they were NSFAS beneficiaries? Because there should be an indication that if one is an NSFAS beneficiary, it means you don't afford, you can't afford. Then how is one subjected of paying above the cap? So we have to be in agreement that the NSFAS administration and how it is doing things, it is totally not working for them. Because this year we got students that the portal was open for students to apply. It was then closed, it was reopened. But now there are some students that did apply, but they applied at the TVET cycle. But NSFAS did not communicate that this is a TVET cycle application. And when you go into the portal and apply, it states that, are you applying for universities? It gives you a list of universities. It gives you a list of TVET colleges. And you get the most students that they're saying they applied for universities, but you find those students are not funded today because they're saying the system was opened for only TVET, but the communication was not for TVET when they were supposed to choose the choice. Is it a TVET or universities? It further goes on to the late applications that happened in January, where students obviously get their matric results, and obviously when they're applying, they also, NSFAS is telling us that these are TVET applications and not university applications, but the system allowed for students to apply for university applications for NSFAS, and you are finding those students not funded. I'll further go on to the issue of exceptions that are happening. Students are funded during the beginning of the year. At the cost of the year, students are told that there are exceptions that are put into place. Now, how can you fund someone at the beginning of the year and during the course of the year, you cut that person's funding? How is that person going to live? How is that person even going to pay accommodation? That's where troubles of that's when troubles of landlords starting to chase away students, because NSFAS has decided during the course of the year that they're going to defund students upon those things. Then there is a cap that NSFAS is actually trying to bring, a cap of 25,000 of unaccredited residents, your private accommodations, what you call. So at CPUT, we are currently having close to about 22,000 students, approximately are funded by NSFAS over a total population of 38,000. So that might tell you that our university is mostly of students who are funded by NSFAS. So when you are imposing a cap of 25,000 on unaccredited residential accommodation, while we are having this issue of caps, do you think landlords will actually keep students or they'll chase away students? Because that's what's going to happen. And during the course of the year, registration templates were supposed to be sent to NSFAS. NSFAS kept a date that registration handlers must be closed and universities cannot send registration templates to NSFAS. And you're finding that NSFAS keeps on updating the funding decision. Let's say I'm still waiting for my funding decision. To date states that I'm provisionally funded. The university then has to send a registration template to NSFAS, but NSFAS on its own has said to the university they must not send registration templates. Now you find that there is a mixed match between the financial aid offices and NSFAS, where NSFAS keeps on changing decisions, but they're telling universities not to send registration templates. Further on, it goes of students going to these private accommodation landlords, getting accommodation, and you find FAOs are claiming travel allowance for those students, by finding out those students are funded. So it is then a plea that to you, when Chair, that can reg handlers be opened and those students that were supposed to be funded or that they're supposed to be sent, they be sent there, because now it creates that confusion that they've claimed a travel allowance, they have to do top ups. And when it comes to top ups, NSFAS is going to tell you that they don't have a certain budget or that funding that they should be giving for top ups, but they're still changing decisions of saying that you're provisionally accepted, you're eligible, you have your appeals that have not even given a decision. It's a lot that's happening under the administration of NSFAS. But lastly, before I step down, I just want to ask you that which universities are you calling to portfolio committee? Because us were just right here, but we are not called to portfolio committee and portfolio committee to our university to account as well, because we see other people coming. And normally January we had a crisis, there was sauna and students were sleeping outside. It's less than 5 minutes away to our university, but our university was not called to actually respond or answer. And you even stated, and I came in late, but you stated that you regularly check your emails. I do not know if you saw the email of the whistleblower, and if you saw the email, I think you would have responded or even called the university to come and sit on the particular thing, because the council had said, and I believe is if someone is investigated by law, when we're being told that person ought to take a step away from the position and be investigated. So we want to understand that the people that are being investigated or the people that are appearing in that corruption report that has been done, what is going to happen? Are they going to be shifted aside and investigation take place? I'm not saying they're guilty or not guilty, but what should happen? Because normally when a student is being found of alleged something or they're investigated, they're normally suspended up until they're proven guilty or not guilty. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Yeah. No, thank you very much. But we can say that we invited you today. You came. So the chairperson will make sure that, but I don't think you need any invitation. You are very close. You just need to walk down and come here. No one ever needs an invitation to come to their own parliament, because this is your parliament, it's people's parliament. Can we then take the last one virtually? Is it written or to be delivered oral?
Well,
Mr. Manaisa.
it's also written.
Okay.
So if Mr. Manaisa is not going to speak, I can read on his behalf.
Just speak into the microphone.
Sorry. First question from Mr. Manaisa. It's Jafta Manaisa. It's directed to the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Social Development. When is the R24? I'm not sure if it's R24 or 24 rands when is the 24 Rand subsidy starting, or the R24 subsidy starting, as there is inconsistent information from provinces? 2, how is our ECD practitioners, how are they being assisted in acquiring the relevant qualifications as per the Bella Act? 3, why are the ECD practitioners not being given an opportunity and subsidy to qualify? These are from Jafta Munaisa, chairperson or chairman of the Civil Society Unmuted Coalition in the Northwest Province. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. I think that's quite an avalanche of questions and concerns, but also views, inputs that have been expressed from the floor, especially from the leadership of students at various academic institutions. If I were chairperson, Letsie, I will just go to the podium to address all these issues, because it's quite a lot of them, and I know he has been taking notes for each and every one of them. I don't think that solutions or answers to solutions are going to be found in just this engagement alone. I think he will agree with me that at some point there will be a need for some sort of a student parliament in order to get to the bottom of these issues and get these institutions like NSFAS and others so that they can appear before the student parliament to deal with all these issues. Chairperson Letsie, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody, for the questions. I hope that we will try our best to respond. The first question is, what does it take for Parliament to bring in institutions like CPUT to Parliament? I think our portfolio is very big. We have more than 120 public institutions that we do oversight over. We have not been in office for a year. We were only turning 1 year next month on the 11th of July, because we first convened the first meeting of the portfolio committee that elected myself as the chair on the 11th of July 2024. We have agreed as the committee that we are going to do a report to give account on what is it that we have done in the past year next month. So we have 26 public universities that we do oversight on. We have 50 TVET colleges that we do oversight on. We have 21 sitters that we do oversight on. Then we have other entities, Section 3A entities like a QCTO, SAQA, NSFAS, CHE, NSF, NHISS, which makes the total amount to just over 120 public entities that we do. You including the department, the ministry. And I'm sure we'll all agree that you can't count NSFAS once there. NSFAS is almost like 10 entities, because you must meet with NSFAS. Where I come from, they call it court, or fast, or quicker. You must meet with them almost every time, because of the challenges in that institution. We have received, or maybe I must indicate that. So as the portfolio committee, we are an oversight board. We do oversight over the ministry, the department, all national entities, including the university. So the university on a regular basis reports to the department. We don't have the legislative powers to even investigate. We don't even have the, except let's leave the legislative, the human resource powers to investigate all of these allegations that we get. And we get a lot. If we look at the backlog that we have now on entities that would want to meet, we have a serious, especially in university, we have a serious backlog on what is it that we want to look at. And it will be futile for us to meet with an entity where there are allegations, and those allegations are being investigated, because it means all of those allegations in our meeting, we can't touch them because there's a separate process. Parliament is an arm of this. We've got three. We've got the legislature, which is us. We've got the executive, and we've got the judicial. So if a matter is seized somewhere, it means you can't deal with it. Let me make an example. In the first quarter, I think somewhere around February, I can't remember the dates, we had wished to interact with an institution called Durban University of Technology, because there was a forensic report that was done that painted a very bad picture there. But because the Vice Chancellor took it to court, we had to remove them on our program because it was now part of a separate process in the courts. So we have seen that email. We have referred it to the department to look at what is it that they can do there, and if they see it fit, they must put in forensic there. We will interact with, and this is the commitment that we've made to the committee, with all entities under our portfolio. But when we do so, we must make sure that there are no technicalities that are used to block us from questioning certain things. So I hope I've made sense. I've tried to speak in riddles on that one, because we don't want also, some of these institutions accuse us of taking sides of either workers or students against them. And we always say that we look at ourselves as stakeholders in the ecosystem of higher education, and all of us, we must work well in making sure that we deal with these things. Luvuyo, I think there's a point that you've made which worries me. I think you are saying on registration data, NSFAS are closed or instructed or said to institution not to submit the registration data at the beginning of the year. And that would have meant that institutions can't send. I think would really like that you give us this thing because no institution have said this to us, one. But if this thing exists, then it creates a problem. That NSFAS can say we're not ready for registration data until a certain period. And then at a later period, they then penalizes the students because they had initially said, so if you can just give us this part. On a cap on unaccredited accommodation, but this one I'm going to answer it in different ways. The first one is that what is unaccredited accommodation? Unaccredited accommodation is accommodation that, in a simplest understanding, does not meet the minimum norms and standards of THET. Unaccredited accommodation is accommodation that neither the institution or NSFAS can say we are approving of this student staying in that accommodation. Because if they met the minimum norms and standards, then they must go and get accredited. That is a simple this thing. Do we support students staying in unaccredited accommodation? I mean, norms and standards are very clear. We want certain level of security, certain level of Wi-Fi, and with a number of, especially female students who go through a lot in our accommodation, we don't really want our students to stay in accredited accommodation. Many of I mean, if anybody can go in and out because there's no security, our students there will be subjected to serious GBV. So we don't want unaccredited accommodation. That's the first thing we must agree on. We want all accommodation to meet the minimum norms and standards, and they must be accredited. They must go through a process to be accredited. So why are these why are this accommodation not being accredited? It's because of one reason or the other. And we said, we have agreed with NSFAS and we said, if we continue paying them these amounts and they are unaccredited, it means we're promoting these things of accommodation not being accredited. So they must be punished. So the 2,500 that many of you spoke about is not, it's not wrong. It's a punishment to those who don't want to get accredited. Why must they get the same as the accredited? In fact, when we went to the Free State, some of them unaccredited in Bloemfontein, unaccredited, were getting more than some of the accredited at CUT. So why would those ones want to go and accredit when they are getting more than these ones who are accredited? So we want to inform you that we agreed that there must be punishment to those people. Where we disagreed with NSFAS was that they woke up in the middle of the night on the 7th of March and issued a circular that all unaccredited are going to be given 2.5. The problem with that, it's in the middle of the semester. These students have signed lease with those people. So the difference will then have to be paid for by the student. That's where we disagreed with NSFAS. But the decision to punish unaccredited, we agree with them. In fact, next year they must say 1.5. We want them to be, they must go and many of them, it's just small issues. Just put Wi-Fi, why can't you do that? So that you are accredited, you put security, and we can sleep at night knowing that when parents release their children to our sector, they will be safe there. That's all why we want student accommodation. Where we disagreed with NSFAS and we said, go and reconsider, it's in the middle of the year. It's in the middle of, it's like last year when NSFAS woke up in June and July and defunded 10,300 students. Whether they were wrong or not, but it's in the middle of them. Many of them have left their families because your system told them that they qualify. And they've now incurred debt. They took abogogo babathengele bababhukhela ibhasi bathatha umashonisa babafaka kwi-city to city baphumela Limpopo baseJoburg. And when they are there after 6 months, they've incurred debt on student accommodation and academic in the middle of the same system of yours that said they qualify is now saying they don't qualify and you defund them. It's like, you know, how we describe them, we said NSFAS, it's like they sleep at night and depending on how they were dreaming, they just wake up and take a decision. But that decision has got financial implications of students. So on the unaccredited, I hope you are not asking us to fight for unaccredited to be paid more. We don't agree. We agree when you say to us, because this year, it was already in the middle of the year, NSFAS must take the financial issue of this year, but next year, we ask NSFAS to even go lower than 2.5 so that we get rid of unaccredited. The application period, again, I hope you are not saying that those students who applied at the end of January, NSFAS must pay for them. Let me tell you what would have happened. So in January, NSFAS, when they open registration, they actually released the circular saying, we are opening for a T1, a TVET semester 1 or trimester 1. Sorry. For those who will be going to TVET because probably the university, the results came out on the 13th and all of that. The circular was very clear there. That is an opening for TVETs. In fact, there, even if we go to court, we will not win. I can tell you, NSFAS will wipe the floor with us. Where they made a mistake between the communication the communication problem between universities and NSFAS, because on the portal, the status will say provisionally funded, but it does not indicate whether TVET or university. So these students takes this portal to a university accepts this student. And after some time, then the student, the university writes to NSFAS. NSFAS says, no, this one, I don't have their registration during the university. They only applied during a TVET system. And the provisionally funded was for this thing. And by the way, this student knows because they applied they applied after the circular we've released, which says this is for TVET. NSFAS opened for universities on the 15th of September, 2024. It was a circular. Said we're opening 15th September, we're closing 15th December. So anybody who applies after 15th December for a university, they know that they've not applied for a university system. There was a T3 last year around September, which they opened for TVETs, which was open around the same time with the universities. Those students who applied that time, because many of them would have seen the system for the first time, they may have made a mistake because, and this is our arguments to NSFAS, said CEO, these students, they see the system for the first time. Like any of us, if you see something for the first time, you are likely to make mistakes on the system. This child is in high school, is doing grade 12. Why would they apply for T3? It doesn't make sense. It means it's a genuine mistake. This child is not registered at any TVET college. Why would they apply for T3? It means it's your system and the mistakes of these children. So those people, we said to them, all these students, go and make a case. How much would it cost to convert those ones who applied during that T3 between September and December? Convert it into value. Let's see how much is it. And they said to us around 800,000 because those kids, those students are at university. Then we said, go and take it to the board, let the board take a decision on this thing, but we don't see why you should say no. So those students, it is our belief and our case that we've made to NSFAS that NSFAS must consider giving bursaries to those students who are at institutions of higher learning, because that one is a normal mistake. Whether they applied for university or TVET within that period, because the university opening was, or the university application was open, we have asked them to do it and we'll follow up with them. Like I said, we're looking for a date. We wanted to meet with them in June, NSFAS, because we're really not, even if we're going to apply to even meet them at night, because it's urgent, this matters with NSFAS. The space between what basic education is producing versus what is available, Thando, at our institutions of higher learning. So it's true that we're at about 202,000 university spaces. We also had about 178 or 300, I can't remember now, something like that, first F10s at TVET colleges. We also had about 150,000 available spaces for F10s and private institutions. So this 350 or so that you are speaking about comes from private institutions, public, private schools, public schools, comes from everywhere. Many of, not many, this time public schools produced more, which is a testament of 30 years of proper building of a foundation and basic education. I know Ma'am Angie was criticized a lot, but that, however you look at it, that is a legacy of that Ma'am Angie that produced so much, especially noting that not only high numbers came from township schools or quintile 1 to quintile 3 schools, the number of distinctions that came from our fee-free schools or non-fee paying schools, a number of distinctions came from them, where some of us come from in township schools. A number of, a high number actually of these bachelor passes came from, again, quintile 1, 2. So it's a legacy of, and we must give it to her, shame. We can't arrive, Minister Gwakube knows, we can arrive in 6 months and want to claim that one. That one, Asia High, she must not claim it. That one is Mame. So we must give it to Ma'am Angie there. And one political party that led for 30 years during building a strong foundation there. And then, so we want to build more brick and mortar institutions. It's not easy, given the, I mean, you saw now, we've only, I think this week, we just passed the budget now last week. The budget is not, well, the baseline is fine. but the increases that we wanted on higher education, we did not get the numbers that we wanted, but there are increases. The university, there's 2 in the pipeline. The Ekurhuleni University of Technology and the Hammanskraal Police Detective one, which are almost done. I think almost everything is ready there. We just need money, and that is why the department, we've asked them to look at triple P at the beginning so that we're able to go 10 soil in this financially, and those 2 institutions. We must start, but we can increase capacity. This, I don't understand why our institutions will want to boast that they've got 15 billion in reserves. For what? When we don't have spaces for. You must invest that money in education. Why would a university say, I mean, you can build in District 6, what do you call, UCT can build a campus here in District 6 instead of saying they've got the reserves of 12 billion. For what? They are not a bank. Those are the banks that must worry about those things. We must worry about investing what we have. And if government, I mean, I said at the beginning, we give these institutions a lot of money in grants, or we say to them, go survive. But some of them can survive. Because if you can have 15 billion in reserves, why are we giving you this 900 million or 1.2 billion? We should be giving it to smaller universities to expand. But we are giving you guys across. But you guys, some of you in these institutions, you are worried about having reserves. So with the money that is already here in the system, we can collaboratively work and build enough space for everybody. But we don't have a will. Some are, you know, there are some people who want to make certain institutions exclusive. So this one, you know, there's a case that we're dealing with in a law school of one institution, I won't say it, where we're told that even if in the final year, you have 300 law students who are doing final year, they'll tell you the degree of law here is exclusive. We only want 60 graduates. And even if you shame Wapasa, because of this thing, they will close you out. And this is something, we don't understand that particular thing. And that is why I think in that day, Mutapo, when you said maybe we need student parliament, and I agree, but we also are going to have a serious colloquium with everybody in the sector to deal with a whole lot of things. There are people who don't understand the autonomy, institutional autonomy. They think they can't account to parliament. We're going to inform them what is institutional autonomy. Institutional autonomy, by the way, does not say there must not be public accountability. And they're going to account because like we derive our mandate from the Constitution itself, Section 55 of the Constitution. It gives us the powers that we have to do that. So that is how I'm going to answer the issue of the production that we're producing or getting from basic and the available spaces. There's a lot that we need to do there, and the department must play a serious role. We can't have a department that is soft, that fails to hold the universities accountable and tells them that because of autonomy, you can't tell me whether I'm illegally employing a foreign person. That's illegal. That's according to the law of this country, it's illegal. So if you don't know what you must do, maybe it's high time you give somebody a chance. Just gracefully resign, give somebody who wants to do their job there. So those people at the department, that is what we're going to tell them. I can't see are there any solutions to the accommodation providers after the decline of appeals? So there are students who stay in accommodation. because they are under appeal. Their status is under appeal. NSFAS takes 6 months, and in June they say your appeal has failed. Now, this student has incurred debt. That's what you mean. The student has incurred debt to this accommodation, but also to the institution. It's a tricky thing. Let me tell you why. By law, even these contracts, no student or no accommodation provider is supposed to house a student who's not funded by NSFAS. That is the first thing. And if they do house them, it's at their risk. That is the first part. The second part is that what happens if these accommodation providers don't house the students? Where do they stay? It means we're creating a serious crisis. So it's a double-edged sword. It's a tricky situation which will be the first to accept that it's something that we must speak about and resolve. Even though legally the accommodation provider is taking a risk, but if they did not do so, to let's say others who their appeals are now successful. So it means even those ones, they would have went home. So the number of dropouts would have been very high, because if accommodation says, I can't take you, and there's at the beginning of the 80,000 at NSFAS, it means those 80,000 must go home. So the dropout rate is it's huge. So I think we must have a discussion. Maybe let's hear how you want us to deal with this part. Let's have that discussion, because it's for us it's a double-edged sword. I think would be the first to admit to that. Yeah, on the cap, there's a number of issues. Number of issues we must accept. The first one is that we have the criminal network on a student accommodation. And I'll tell you why. On this one, I'm not mincing my words on this one. The accommodation accreditation was exclusively with universities until around 2023. What happened at the time? These criminal networks, one, they ran down the university-owned accommodation. They will not take care of it. They'll not even paint. They'll not paint, so that you as students don't want to stay there, or don't want your students to stay there. They then started this process of leasing and accrediting private accommodation. But they will go to this private accommodation people and demand money. But when you've got 2,000 beds, for us to accredit you want 800,000. And I'm saying I'm not mincing my words. I've challenged them in 2023. I've challenged them. If they think we're lying, they must come. In fact, we said in 2023, maybe a little bit reckless, but we said this thing happens in all universities and we can prove it. Maybe we're a bit reckless, but today we're not reckless. We're saying it happens in most of them. Where these criminal networks that are workers of university during the day and business people at night, they take bribes. They run down university owned, they give accommodation, private accommodation, these things at the cost. Many of them, by the way, they would have written to us, we're not thumbsucking. When we tell them, these people, we go to church, some of us. We're still young, we go to social events, DSTV Delicious. We go to soccer games. We know the owners of these accommodation providers because they come from the places we come from. We don't live in heaven. Some of us, we live on the ground with these people. Some of them, they went to varsity with us. They went to school with our parents, so we know them. When we say to you, you have went to Bas John, who owns this accommodation. We are not Tamsagi. It's because Bas John came to us and told us, and even told us the name of the person you have sent to them. Right? So there's criminal networks there. They must agree. That is the first part. The second, how do they expect these people to give them this 800,000? It means they increase the price per bed. If you can do an investigation, go to 2018 and now and look at how accommodation has been very expensive. You know, the rise between that time and now is, you can't explain it. It's unnecessary, right? That is the part there on this thing. So NSFAS in 2023 says there's an accommodation. Let me make an example about UCT and CPUT because they're just here. There by observatory, there's accommodation on one side that belongs to CPUT. Opposite, it belongs to UCT. If you compare these two, so you can't say this one is because water in Cape Town is expensive. They are both not only in the same city, they are in the same street. But this one, this side, is 3,000 more per bed than the other one. How does that make sense? Why must we pay 90,000 on this side and pay 50,000 on the other side? What is that? Doesn't make sense. So when NSFAS presented this thing, luckily in 2023, I was a member of this committee as well. And we said, no, it does not make sense. So show us this 90,000. So maybe let's say they are charging us what's inside the accommodation, not necessarily in the street. We enter this inside, we want to see 90,000. There's no 90,000 because we were expecting to enter there to find, maybe you've got labs there, maybe we've got basketball courts, we've got swimming pool. There's none of those things. So what is this 90,000 that you want these poor students to pay there? Or this government that does not have money to pay there? So it doesn't make sense. So we supported the NSFAS camp. We said to them, NSFAS, NSFAS is bringing this thing because it wants to equalize. It does not make sense. Maybe where NSFAS got it wrong was to have a cap across for metro and non-metro places. That's fine. We can take that part. But to say universities there, we say to them, Yusuf, go inform your universities to make a case. Appeal to NSFAS and say, this, maybe let me make another example that I made that time about Brandfontein, Govets. Accommodation, we're told is this one, 7,000. Okay? It's a size of in a size of a commercial flat, one bedroom of a commercial flat. They are putting 3 beds. Marbarabone charge up per bed 8,000. So for a size of a commercial room, they want to make 24,000. 24,000. And I said to them there, Luna, there by Metro Center in Bramfontein, there's flats this side. 300, 400 meters away, the student accommodation. So rent per square meter in student accommodation is almost 4 times rent per square meter in commercial building. So it does not make sense for students to stay in student accommodation in Bramfontein because more we can get 2 bedroom, really 2 Ropatala 9,000. So it's 4,000, but we've got a bigger bed, we've got a bigger room, we've got a kitchen, fully furnished kitchen, we've got a parking. If our parents wants to visit us, we've got a sitting room. So the two of us, can pay 4,500 in a commercial space, or where people who are supposed to work, who are working, who are supposed to pay more, are paying less. Poor people who have got nothing are paying more for student accommodation. So we said you are turning education in South Africa into a commodity. You are excluding, you want to exclude poor people in South Africa technically because they are poor from accessing education. And that's where we supported the cap. But we said, universities, go and appeal this thing on a case by case. Maybe at the time it was 45,000, and we said maybe 45,000 might be too little for Cape Town. But 90,000 is definitely a lot. So we want you to go make a case and say, find each other with NSFAS and meet each other halfway. These universities, because sometimes they believe they're in charge. They decided to write almost a common, I still have their letters. Almost all their letters were the same. Literally telling NSFAS to go jump. They are going to stick to their issues. And we told them that decision is going to affect students. We're not like Ankane, you know, being stubborn does not help sometimes. Sometimes plead your case. Just like now we said to University of Free State, go plead with NSFAS about this cap of unaccredited. Like we said, all universities must. NSFAS agreed. They said, we agree. We have not done things right here. So, of course, the consequences are dire. We've got many students who have not even graduated because of the cap, the piece that goes every month into this thing. And it's something that we were having a conversation. We want to have a conversation with USAF about that. Even when a person was a private student, let alone NSFAS, if they complete, you may withhold the certificate, but allow them to graduate. Why would you deny a child an opportunity to graduate? Sometimes it's they are the first in their own families to complete a qualification. Allow them to graduate. You can withhold the certificate, but give them something to prove that they've concluded this thing so that they stand a chance to participate in the mainstream economy. So it's something we'll have, because this thing already, because some institutions allow students to graduate, but some don't. Graduation, let's allow, it's something we'll have with them. So the issue of the cap, we must have a conversation with the ministry, the department, NSFAS and USAF, including Safetsa, Saus, and everybody else. I think I've answered this one of the whistleblower of CPUT. The department is seized with that matter. They should come that thing. You see, you are saying there are accommodation providers who want to evict students now during breaks, and what they are charging is not equal to this bed and a chair that they're giving. This is, how are they accredited and how much? Why would anybody agree we must pay 5,500 for literally, libertating as a 3/4, I guess singing literally. You know, it's bad. So it shows you what we are talking about, that there are people who are beneficiaries of these things. But we will not leave them 2 weeks back, or 3 weeks, no, last week, Wednesday was the deadline, or last week, Friday. So we wrote to all the SETA CEOs to explain to us these bursary schemes that they're running. Because it doesn't make sense. You are saying they sometimes take 2 years to pay. We were saying, why would they take 6 months to even give a student an allowance? Because if I'm funder, NSFAS can't fund me, right? And you fund this kid, this student, and you don't give them anything. So where do you expect them to get food for the entire 6 months? So that's the angle we wrote to them. I saw their emails are coming. I think the deadline is this Friday. I think I've seen Chieta Road, I think they submitted on Sunday, on Saturday. There's some other sitters, but the point there, what we want to look at the models they're using, because clearly there's a problem. We want to look at the models they're using. We want to help them because we're a partner. I want to help them create a centralized model, because this thing of taking money and giving it to university, and you don't even tell university, this is for Tebogo. University, they'll take that money and accrue interest on it. They'll make money out of your money and still punish your students and still charge interest to the students. So the plan there is to create a model that will best suit our students. Yeah, we'll have a discussion on that thing. Somebody said we must create a system where SASSA beneficiary. SASSA beneficiaries don't have to prove that. I don't know, Siba, maybe it was you. Yeah, they don't have to prove that you're poor. I think it was you, Siba. Actually, that's the system. NSFAS uses a SASSA system. We've got an agreement with SASSA. So you apply, if you are a SASSA beneficiary, immediately, that is why on the 15th of December, the portal closes. On the 16th of December, NSFAS can release a list of provisionally funded, and it will say these are SASSA beneficiaries. So on the system, we can pick it up. The system of NSFAS, I don't trust them much, but I've went there and looked at it myself, and I could prove, I could see that, okay, here it shows SASSA beneficiary because from primary school, high school, you are getting a SASSA grant. So that is there. Their system just need to improve on any other beneficiary. Or even when the system changes. Our worry was at the beginning of the year, SASSA or the department had indicated that there were, I don't know, was it 19,000 or something? There was some number that benefited from SASSA without necessarily qualifying. So that was our worry that, hey, it might be SIBA would have came from, these parents of SIBA are the ones who defrauded SASSA, and now we've paid for him this side. That would have been our worry, but we do have that system. We have, they do have a system with, or an agreement with these ones of companies. They do have an agreement with SARS where they can actually, that's why sometimes they say, go give us ERP 5 or 40 something, those forms, there's a request, because on the SARS, you'll say we're not working, but on SARS, they pick up that your father has got this money that they are receiving on a monthly basis. So we do have those things. Saus says, we've interacted with Saus and we've informed them that their mandate has expired. They've informed us that they're going to conference this month. We've informed them that we will not be able to interact with them if they've not went to conference. SRC Saus accounts to student leaders. So SRCs must make Saus account because you guys affiliate to these unions. So you must hold them accountable. We are holding the department accountable on this one. We've had a discussion with the Director General about this thing. We'll have a conversation. I can see a student, I think that you brought too many students, so you must next time deal with
and also, Honorable Chair, we don't want them to leave on empty stomach.
Yeah.
The kitchen is saying that they will be closing in the next 20 minutes. So
I had too many, I'm lost with two.
yeah.
we agree with the revisiting of the threshold of 350,000. I think it's been there for a number of years. The standard of living is really, the cost of living has went up. It's something that we must look at. Looking at with the current budget in the medium term will mean that we'll have to cut a number of students that we're funding. Unfortunately, unless if SARS improves in getting more money, we might have a problem of not funding a number of our people. The loan scheme, on that meeting, we had a problem with NSFAS because they were telling us stories that the loan scheme, they don't have the resources, they don't have the capacity for a loan scheme. I don't understand what they were talking about because NSFAS was a loan scheme. When some of us went to varsity, we're alone. And all of a sudden, they don't have that expertise that did not make sense to us. Number one. Number two, why did they agree to take the money from NSF and these sitters and get this 3.8 billion that they could not do anything with? And whether they accrued interest on it or not, how much was it? It was just, it was as if they were not ready to answer us there. But the acting CEO has assured us that they are working on it. I think we must also note that NSFAS was put under administration last year in April because there were a lot of problems that were reported. So the new board is new. I'm not sure if they've already passed 3 months now. They are new. They know what we are expecting from them. The acting CEO is acting. It shows you that we don't have a CIO there. We only have a COO, CFO. I don't know. So the management there is also limping. So we're hoping that they will get their house in order first. Address some of these issues. So it will be very difficult for us to be too harsh on them when they are new. It's all, everybody there is new. But what we told them, we said, they must not arrive there and act like there was no work done before. So they must look at the reports that would have been there, make sure that they fix on those things. Yeah, this one we've addressed. We'll have a discussion on the side. Inclusivity on sitter boards. The minister has issued another gazette. In the gazette, she's very clear that she would ask stakeholders to nominate people from different ethnic groups, people with disabilities, people from different backgrounds generally. So unfortunately, the Act here, Section 11, subsection 1 of the Skills Development Act, gives all the powers to the minister. Unfortunately, we can only hold her accountable the after effect of what would have happened. So we're hoping that she has actually committed that she wants to diversify the boards with people with proper governance, understanding, and all of that. Yeah, we can't have, maybe the last one, we can't have mitigating factors to make sure that accommodation providers in the meantime are paid. So what NSFAS is saying is that because of the system collapse at NSFAS, some of the accommodation providers are taking chances. What does that mean? It means in your accommodation, Mahandana, you have 50 people, 50 students that are staying there. And then 30 of them are NSFAS students. But when you, because of this madness at NSFAS, you take a chance. You bill NSFAS for 50 students because you have 50 students staying there, but 30 of them are only NSFAS. So you must bill for it. So NSFAS says, if we pay here, AG is going to have a problem with us when we reconcile here because we'll end up having paid for 2 million students in the system when we're supposed to pay for 1.2. So they are taking precautions. So we understand where they come from. Our beef with NSFAS is that you can't take so long because you taking long creates a problem that I spoke about. I mean, as young guys who have nobody from home at home giving you anything, you are a student, you are lucky to get accommodation. Your landlord is giving you problems. You are not getting allowances. You end up being desperate. Or no, let me go to Long Street. People there, they drink a lot at night. Let me try. Maybe I'll get 2 that are drunk, and then I'll pickpocket 2 phones, sell them, have a meal for a month. And this poor young boy gets unlucky. He gets, if he's lucky, arrested, or he gets, they panel beat him there. They open a case, he goes to jail. That is this boy who grew up in a church, somebody who's never done this before. So NSFAS not doing the right thing creates this problem. It's a social, tomorrow this boy's got a criminal record. They fire him or they expel him at university. You have created a problem for us. Or a young girl who also does not have anybody at home. NSFAS does the same like they've done. What does they, you know, if they are girls, you've got this, these ones who've just graduated, Osiba. They've got some work, they work there at residences, they're getting a salary or a stipend. They can now afford to buy bread for themselves and the next person. So when this young girl is not given these allowances and they've been refusing the advances of Bosiba, you are forcing them to accept, to be, you know, under duress in a relationship with somebody they don't want. So NSFAS not paying, and Bosiba is better because they're maybe still young, same age group at varsity. But there's more Tebogo who are working elsewhere. Big Mkaba. They go to these young girls because they're driving. They go there with cars. These girls are desperate. They agree because Tebogo promised to go to buy them groceries. But what Tebogo, they're probably sick. They don't want to use protection on these young girls because these young girls have got no choice. They agree. They either fall pregnant or they get sick because of both Tebogo. So when we say to NSFAS, we understand that there's these processes we want to deal with, but deal with them fast because we don't want you to take this young girl and this young boy into these desperate situations. Because if it gets there, you are creating another social ill. If they get pregnant, both they run away and then create single parents again. And SASSA must now pay again. It's another burden on the state. SASSA must now pay when they get to primary. Basic education must give them transport, must give them meals and all of that. We are creating more problem. So that is why NSFAS is very important to all of us. Thank you very much. If there's anything, Club Worker WhatsApp. Thank you very much.